This session is on public awareness, and we've already kind of danced around that issue a little bit already. I'm going to start this session off, and basically I'm just going to try to give kind of a broad overview of some of the public awareness efforts going on and why they're important to a whole range of different stakeholders. You know, certainly the one thing I've learned working pipelines for 10 years now is that there's a whole lot of issues that sometimes certain groups focus on so narrowly that they miss the bigger picture. You know, when I think of public awareness, I also think of public education. I think of access to information, transparency, public involvement, behavior change. Those things, in my mind, all get wrapped together in where we're actually trying to go. Oftentimes, we focus so narrowly on just some piece of that we miss the larger puzzle. So just to give a little context, I want to talk a little bit about what some of those problems are in the current public awareness efforts, at least the way we see it. One of the things is that the current public awareness efforts focus only on what the industry should do. You know, there's actually language in the regulations that require the industry to do certain public awareness stuff. There isn't any requirement about what local government should do or what the regulators should do or those types of things. And a lot of the information that people are interested in falls on someone other than the industry to provide. So that's one of the problems with some of the public awareness, public education stuff. The other problem that we see is it also focuses only on awareness. Is the public aware that there's a pipeline in their neighborhood, or are they aware what to do if they smell gas? It really doesn't focus much on, are they knowledgeable about any of those issues, or are they involved, or is any of that information changing their behavior? Who cares if they know there's a pipeline in their neighborhood if they don't know what to do under certain situations? So we need to really start focusing more on changing people's behavior, not just checking off a box about whether we can say that they're aware of a pipeline. And it also focuses only on what the industry and the regulators believe the public should be aware on, not inclusive of what the public might be interested in. So we've designed regulations that have certain things that the industry is required to make us aware of, but the public often, even once they get aware of those things, want more information. And since the regulations don't go there, there often isn't efforts that way. And there's little measure of effectiveness up to this point. It's been a huge effort by the industry to even roll out the public awareness that's already going on. I mean, because you're talking about hundreds of thousands of miles of right-of-way and trying to talk to millions of people. So it's a huge effort, and you know they've done a pretty good job at that first thing, but we need to keep moving forward for continuous progress. And part of that is how do we measure whether we're making that progress, and we're going to hear about that this morning. Just a little bit over what the regulations require. It's a American Petroleum Institute recommended practice 1162, and this got incorporated into the regulations by reference. And it mainly targets four groups of people. It's those living and working along pipelines, emergency response personnel, local government officials, and excavators. That's who the regulations require the industry to try to make aware of a variety of things. The things that they're required to make people aware of is kind of the purpose and reliability of pipelines, hazard awareness prevention measures, how to recognize a problem. You know, if you smell something, this is what you're supposed to do. Who to call if you think something's going on. Damage prevention, my lapel pin again, a lot of the message is call before you dig. And then pipeline locations. How would people know if they had a pipeline in their community? Both the NPMS National Pipeline Mapping System and markers along the right-of-ways. All good stuff, all real important stuff that people living along pipelines and local government folks ought to know. But once the public's aware of even those basic things, there's lots of other information that the public wants to know now. And that's sometimes where the frustration comes in is, okay, how do I learn more? I've tried to call the company. I've tried to call the regulator. I tried to call Carl Weimer. He doesn't have any answers. How do I learn more information? You know, are the companies ready, able, and willing to share information? And how about the regulators? We're going to hear a little bit about that too. Here are the things that we hear from the public on an ongoing basis the public's interested in that goes beyond what public awareness regulations require. You know, they really want to know what's in the specific pipeline in their area. Once they find out there is a pipeline, they want to know, what is it? Is it gasoline, crude oil, diesel? What kind of crude oil? People are even getting specific about, they want to know the type of crude oil running through the pipeline. They want to know what the risk of the specific pipeline is. They don't want this general 30,000-foot discussion of risk. They want to know if the pipeline that's 600 feet from my house fails, is it likely to impact me? They want to know what the safety record is of the specific company that's operating the pipeline. There's lots of desires for more information about who sites pipelines, how does that work, easements, eminent domain, all of those issues. And they really, there's, I think, a growing desire to try to understand the pipeline system. What's the purpose of the pipeline? What's it moving from where to where? And who decided that that was in the public's best interest to have these pipelines moving, that type of stuff? Tough questions, and oftentimes it wouldn't be the industry's purpose to answer those, or maybe even the regulator that you would first think of calling. So hard things to move forward on. And then the last thing I just want to leave with is that, a lot of the public awareness is meant at sending information kind of in a one direction. The industry sends out brochures, sends out messages to make people aware of those basic important messages. But really, for any of this to move forward, everybody has to realize that communication is a two-way street. And that's when the public gets frustrated, when they receive stuff, but then when they try to ask questions or try to have a communication with the company or a regulator, they run into a brick wall. That's my final message, that we need to have conversations more often than just one-way messages. So now we're going to move into the actual meat of the thing, and the first speaker up today is Harold Winnie, who's one of the Community Assistance and Technical Services Managers from I always want to call it the Midwest region, but it's the Central region. In PHMSA, for the past few years, once they implemented these regulations, has started to inspect companies on how well they're doing on public awareness, and Harold's going to go over a little bit of what those inspections on public awareness have found to date.